Hello and welcome to our guide for fast and tanky wander setup for Ranger class. The kinetic blast of clustering has two distinguishing features compared to the regular version. It can fire only one projectile, and sources of projectiles get converted to additional explosions instead. It cannot split, but you can make them fork, pierce, or return, causing even more explosions. The second important feature of this skill is the additional physical damage based on your maximum mana. Physical damage is very universal, as you can convert it to any other type you prefer. Specialize in impale or focus on ailments such as bleed or poison. In this case, we convert it to chaos damage via the unholy might buff. This simple buff granted by one cluster jewels notable converts 100% of your physical damage and grants a chance to apply wither on hit, which makes enemies take 90% increased damage. You can also greatly benefit from modifiers that grant a portion of your physical damage as extra chaos damage. As opposed to the popular Archmage builds, you can reserve all your mana with powerful auras to bolster your defenses. The Memory Vault is a particularly useful helmet that lowers your mana reservation efficiency but greatly improves your armor. You may use one less aura than usual, but your determination will be twice as effective. All your flat damage comes from your mana. To scale it further, you should improve your attack speed, critical strikes, and number of explosions. It starts out great on a low budget, but quickly reaches its limit without massive investments or sacrificing defenses, which is not recommended. Thanks to the unusual way to scale damage, you can use a lot of defensive options in this setup. You will have tons of armor, high chance to suppress spell damage and evade attacks, great life recovery with instant leech, and excellent elemental and chaos damage mitigation. Tons of explosions will easily destroy packs of enemies, and you will have excellent mobility thanks to your shield charge with very fast attack speed. The damage against single enemies is rather bad, which is expected for a low budget wander. It is a very cheap build to get started. You will need only a few common unique items and the most basic modifiers on your rare items. Overall, it is recommended alternative to usual attribute stacking setups that tend to not work at all without massive investments. Your unique items are used mostly to bolster your defenses. You will need plenty of chaos resistances on your gear to make the full use of Eternal Damnation Amulet, so you can leave it for later. The Memory Vault grants you a lot of mana and insane amounts of increased armor rating. You can easily double your total armor with just this helmet. It reduces your reservation efficiency, but there are not many useful offensive auras for your chaos damage anyway. The Lore Weave grants a little bit of everything, such as maximum life, mana, and critical strike chance. The important feature is that it locks your maximum resistances at a fixed value which cannot be lowered by other sources. You can link it for cheap using the Black Morrigan recipe. The Eternal Damnation grants you almost 40% elemental damage mitigation based on the chaos resistance you have. Its downside is negated by your body armor. It also grants a little bit of mana. The Ming's Heart grants you absurd amounts of damage and chaos resistances, but it also lowers your maximum life, which is quite low even without it. You can improve the extra damage modifier with noxious catalysts. You can get a very powerful modifier for precision and determination auras on your Watcher's Eye. The precision can also grant you flask charges. You can optionally include vitality aura to benefit from the life on hit modifier. You can use the brutal restraint to improve your life, get onslaught on kill, or improve your flask sustain considerably. You can also use the lethal pride to get a chance to deal double damage and improve physical damage mitigation. Both options are good. With this jewel you can considerably improve your maximum mana, but you will lose a bit of life in return. You can socket it near the infused notable to convert the Blood Drinker cluster. All your flat damage comes from stacking high amounts of mana, and you can boost it with increased attack speed, critical strikes, or attack and spell damage. You will also need maximum life, chaos, and elemental resistances, and a bit of spell suppression. Your gems will require a bit of extra strength. On your wand you should seek attack speed, critical strike chance, and lots of mana. You can also craft the chaos penetration via crafting bench. Thanks to the Wand Mastery, the spell damage modifiers will affect your attacks. On your shield, you should seek maximum life, maximum mana, and attack speed. It can also provide some resistances or spell suppression chance. It is possible to get bonuses to spell damage here too. With your boots, you should try to obtain high maximum life, mana, and movement speed. You can also get plenty of resistances, attributes, or spell suppression here. Optionally, you can use Shaper Influence boots to obtain built-in ballista totem support for a secondary setup. Your gloves are an excellent place to improve your accuracy rating or attack speed, but they should also provide maximum life, mana, and lacking resistances or attributes. Use Eldritch Implicits to get intimidation debuff and a bit of spell suppression. Try to obtain a lot of strength and flask charge modifiers on your rare belt. You will also need your usual life, mana, and resistances too. Ideally, it should be a Stygian Vice, so you can use an additional jewel. Use the Abyss Jewel to improve your life, mana, and get lacking resistances or attributes. You can also get a chance to gain phasing, blind enemies, and improve critical strike multiplier or attack speed. On your regular rare rings, you should mainly focus on life, mana, and chaos resistances. Elemental resistances and attributes can also be useful. You can try to get extra critical strike multiplier, but it may be very expensive. You will use plenty of rare jewels, use them to improve your maximum life and mana, cover lacking resistances or attributes, and improve your attack speed and critical strike multiplier. You will use 2 distinctive large cluster jewel setups. Use the Chaos Jewel with the Overwhelming Malice to get Unholy Might when you deal critical strike, and any other 2 notables, the best choices being the Dark Ideation and Grim Oath. The Wand cluster is rarely used, but it grants very powerful notables for this setup. The Explosive Force is particularly interesting as it grants you a chance to explode enemies on kill, as well as plenty of additional damage at the same time. The projectile modifiers available here are very powerful, especially the Repeater and Eye-to-Eye notables. It might be more beneficial to pick more mana notables on your passive tree instead, but it depends on your gear. The Bottled Faith is an insanely powerful offensive flask. It greatly improves your critical strike chance and damage against enemies standing in the consecrated ground. For your remaining magic flask setup, we recommend using Life Flask with bleeding removal, Quicksilver Flask with critical strike chance bonus, Granite Flask with armor rating bonus, and a Jade Flask with evasion rating bonus. The Kinetic Blast of Clustering fires a single projectile that creates explosions around the target it hits. Sources of additional projectiles provide more explosions instead. Fork and returning projectiles can greatly improve your damage by creating additional explosions, but it requires good positioning. It also makes clearing with only 1 projectile much more tolerable. Determination grants a lot of armor and provides an armor multiplier. It is your main defensive aura. Precision is an offensive aura that grants you a lot of accuracy and critical strike chance. Defiance Banner improves your armor and evasion rating as well as lowers the critical strikes of nearby enemies. Herald of Purity improves your physical damage before the conversion happens and summons helpful minions. With a rare helmet and high-level Enlightened support, you might fit in another aura, but it is a quite high investment and you would lose roughly 10,000 armor rating, so it is usually not worth it. Assassin's Mark is a very powerful curse. It increases your critical strike chance and damage against a single enemy. It will also generate your power and frenzy charges. Thanks to the Mark on Hit setup, you will automatically apply it to any rare or unique enemy you hit with any of your attacks. You can summon a tornado that interacts with your projectiles, causing them to explode upon contact. It will also reflect 10% of your damage to your enemies. Despair is a curse that lowers the enemy's chaos resistance. You can use it after you anoint Whispers of Doom on your amulet. Arcanist Brand creates a brand that attaches to nearby enemies and casts all linked utility spells for you. Use the faster casting support to summon the brand faster. Thanks to your vast mana pool, you don't need to worry about mana costs. The shield charge performs a fast lunge toward the targeted location. It scales with your attack and movement speed. You can speed it up even more with faster attacks and momentum supports. You can also use the enhanced support for even greater effect. You can use a ballista setup to supplement your single target damage. You will still use the kinetic blast of clustering for that, as all your damage comes from mana scaling. To use this setup, you'll probably need to remove some of the other utility options due to lack of empty sockets. You may also allocate the watchtower as notable if you find this setup particularly efficient for your playstyle. Enduring Cry is a war cry that regenerates a big portion of your life and generates endurance charge for additional mitigation. You can automate it with the call to arms support. Using it manually is not worth it. Molten Shell creates a temporary shield that improves your armor and absorbs part of the incoming damage. You can use it manually or automate it with either automation or cast when damage taken support. Blood Rage is a buff that continuously deals physical damage to you but improves your attack speed during its duration. Killing all bandits for 2 additional passive points is the best option. You can also help Alira to get useful benefits for the early game, but it should be refunded later on. For the major Pantheon power, the Soul of the Brine King is the best option. It grants you easy access to freeze immunity and prevent continuous stuns. The minor Pantheon is very flexible. For general mapping, we recommend the Soul of Ralakesh, which makes most bleeding effects irrelevant. The Wand and Mana notables are located quite far away from the Ranger starting area. For a smooth and easy leveling process, we recommend using Elemental Bows, as they offer a wider array of low-level unique items, and you can do some simple alterations to the passive tree to suit that playstyle. You can also use wands right from level 1 with the Kinetic Bolt skill, but without powerful, unique items, it might be a struggle. For more tips, you can check out our leveling guide on the website. The final passive tree focuses mainly on improving your maximum life and mana, providing spell suppression, critical strikes, and increasing your damage with wands. Thanks to the Leech Mastery, you will gain instant Leech. Wand Masteries are also important. They provide extra explosion in the form of additional projectile, and apply spell damage modifiers to your attack damage. You will need at least 1 cluster jewel with the Overwhelming Malice notable to convert your physical damage to chaos. The remaining cluster jewel notables are focused on simply increasing your damage, which you can also acquire on your regular passive tree, but at a slightly less efficient rate. We hope you enjoyed the video and idea behind this build. We encourage you to leave a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Have a good day and see you next time.